Hello everybody, my name is Daniel and I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Pain Companion app, and today Jennifer is joining me and we would like to talk a bit about chronic pain. Jennifer, maybe you can tell a little bit about yourself.
Hi Daniel, it's so nice to be here today and see everybody. So my name is Jennifer and I've had chronic pain for about the last 20 years. I have something called complex regional pain syndrome, or CRPS, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go on.
Okay.
Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Yeah, so I have chronic pain since 2007. I was studying computer science. I was in my master's studies for computer science, and I got pain in my arms and in my back or shoulder region. And it got worse and worse, and then I went to over 20 doctors, and it took me years to finally find the right diagnosis and the right set of treatments. And yeah, during this experience, I always thought that there must be other people on this planet who have exactly the same problem like me, and I would like to be able to learn from those people. And yeah, that's why I started working on the Pain Companion app, and that's also why our paths have crossed today. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and about yourself?
Yeah, I was 12 years old when I got injured. I was really active. I was a figure skater and I did taekwondo. And for me, my identity was very much about the things that I did. And so when I got injured, I was figure skating and I was practicing a jump, and a child came on the ice and fell where I was supposed to land. And I didn't want to go down and cut him with my blade, so I went down on my knee instead. And I splintered the underside of my kneecap, and the doctors tried everything they could do to avoid surgery, but there was nothing they could do to unsplinter the bottom of my kneecap except for go in and fix it. So when they went in for the surgery to go in and fix it, automatically I woke up with a different type of pain. It wasn't anymore a structural pain. It was this burning, fiery kind of road rash pain. And I didn't know what was wrong. And my doctors told me everything was fine. You'll heal. It's surgery. And I kept getting worse. And my legs, they wouldn't move anymore. And they were getting atrophied. So I went, like you, from doctor to doctor. And, the doctors didn't know what to do with me. They didn't understand why I was in pain, and they didn't think it made sense. And so it was a really hard time for me to kind of figure out what was going on. So after 5 years of, not knowing what was wrong with me, I finally found the right doctor, and he was able to tell me, you have CRPS, and he was able to treat it. And I was lucky enough that I went into remission for 3 years, and I was fine, and I was able to cage fight, and I was able to go to college and kind of do all those things that I wanted to do. But I went back east to visit my family in cold weather, and the CRPS came back. And so it's kind of been this long adjustment period for me to kind of figure out how to live the life that I want to live with complex regional pain syndrome.
Wow, that's a story. So you got the disease when you were very young, right? So
Yes.
I think that must have been especially difficult. How were you feeling at that point?
It was very difficult for me for a couple of reasons. Number one, I was going from doctor to doctor, and they didn't know what was wrong with me. And some of them told me it was all in my head and that I wanted attention or I didn't want to get better.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I think for doctors, if they can't tell you what's wrong with you, it's hard for them because they go into medicine to help people.
Yeah.
And so I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, it was really hard for me because I'm thinking to myself, what's wrong with me? That I'm the only person in the world that has this illness and nobody knows what's wrong with me. And at the same time, being 12 years old, my peers, my friends didn't understand what was going on with me. And, they didn't know how to relate to somebody who had a chronic illness. So that was very difficult. And I remember being in school, and for me, everything I did outside of school was my identity, was who I was.
Yeah.
And, then when they give you an assignment and tell you to put everything that's important in life in order, I was the only person in school that said health was the number one thing for me. And everybody else, said money or jobs or things like that. And so it was very hard for me to connect with people my own age.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience to yours because I think we sort of have an invisible illness, and my friends I told them, look, I'm feeling in pain. I can't join you guys today, and they sort of didn't understand. I had to really explain it to them, and I think they still didn't understand. And then I also had to, well, I was doing an internship at the moment when the pain started, and I had to stop that because the pain got so bad. I just couldn't work anymore at the computer.
Mhm.
And after a pause of 3 months, pain got better, and I started the internship again. But then the pain came back again, and I had to stop again. And at that point, I was very desperate, and I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to work anymore, and my life completely changed because before I got the pain, I would have done, I would have wrote down the same goals like your classmates. I mean, getting education, earning money, and so on. But suddenly, health became an issue as well.
Yeah. It's hard for people to understand. I think that in our society, when we get sick, it's so easy to feel like there's this magic pill. You take this pill and you'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And for those people who don't have chronic pain, I think it's very hard for them to imagine, but wait, you feel like this every day? And how do you function? Like it must get better, or go take a nap, you'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just hard for people to wrap their minds around what it must be like to live with chronic pain.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine being a young kid, it's even more difficult to first understand yourself what you're going through and explain it to others. So what advice would you give to somebody your age who's going through this or just has been diagnosed recently?
I would say the most important thing for me was different doesn't have to mean worse. Yes, your life is going to change, but that doesn't mean that you can't do everything that you've always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to look at it creatively and decide, okay, well, I can't do it this way, but if I do this and this, then I can do it. And so for me, that was really important, was looking at it, from a different perspective and realizing that although it's hard, you can still do all those things that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I would give people is, just to remember that doctors are experts and they go through a lot of schooling, but you are the only person who's an expert in your pain.
Yeah, I
and
absolutely
so
agree.
You're a really important part of your medical team. You're not just the patient that goes back and forth to the appointments. You're the person that should be guiding your medical team as far as how to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very important point you brought up, because at the beginning I was thinking like, okay, I just need to find a doctor who will give me the right drug or pill or whatever, or maybe I'll need an operation and the problem will be solved. But at some point I had to realize, okay, I need to take responsibility of my health, and if I'm not going to help myself, nobody's going to help me. And I was seeing a pain psychologist at some point, and he really helped me a lot to learn to deal with my chronic pain and to learn to get back parts of my life, because I think pain robs things you like. I had to stop fencing. I loved fencing, but I got pain in my arms, or the pain got stronger in my arms when I was fencing, so I had to stop that. And my world was getting smaller and smaller, and my psychologist helped me to sort of climb out of the hole that I dug myself into. Did you make a similar experience?
Absolutely. I felt that, I was very isolated. I felt very alone. And it was very important for me to realize that there's no one magic pill. There's no one magic operation that's going to make everything all better. Mm-hmm. That you have to look at everything as part of a whole. And you have to look for, everything as being a percentage of helping you. And so if you can get 5 things that help you a little bit, put that together, that's 50% that helps you. Mm-hmm. And that's a big chunk of pain that you can take away. And so I think that's really important. And for me, when I first got injured, I was doing karate and I really missed it. It was something that was very much a part of my identity. And so my coach said, well, you can do it in a wheelchair. Just sit down and you do the arm movements. And I thought that was really great because, you can still be with your friends. You can still do those things that you love. You just have to look at it a different way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But someone needs that. There needs to happen a click, sort of. in your mind that you see, okay, I still can do a lot of things, and I'm glad that happened for you, and I'm glad that happened for me. I see.
Sorry, doctor overhead.
Maybe it's some pain doctor flying in.
He wants to be interviewed.
Yeah, exactly. He wants to defend all the doctors. No, we said doctors are usually good, but I think chronic pain is just a very complex disease, and CRPS in particular. Can you tell us a little bit about the symptoms of CRPS and the state of the art treatment?
Sure. So CRPS stands for Complex Regional Pain Syndrome, and basically what it is it's a dysfunction of the nervous system that causes the nerves to experience a burning kind of fiery pain 24/7. But in addition to the pain, it also affects so many more aspects. It affects your ability to sleep. It affects your ability to regulate body temperature. So you'll go from feeling very, very cold to feeling very, very hot. And it also makes your immune system less able to function. So you're more likely to get sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so different treatments for CRPS, they're not cures. There's no cure out there yet, but there will be someday. So the different treatments are there. You can do blocks. There are lumbar sympathetic blocks, stellate ganglion blocks, epidural blocks. And those are things where they kind of inject something into your spine or into your back, and they try to block those nerves from functioning. They can also do what's called a radiofrequency ablation, or an RFA, and that's when they burn off those nerves to try and kind of shut them up, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
There's also spinal cord stimulation, and they can put a computer in your spinal cord and try to interrupt the pain signals going from your brain to whatever extremity is bothering you.
Something like noise cancellation headphones, but for your spine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So for me, when I had the spinal cord stimulator, it kind of felt like pins and needles, like when your arm falls asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's meant to interrupt the pain signals. And so that's what you feel all the time, is the pins and needles kind of feeling.
Yeah. Okay. And do you still use that? Do you still have that?
No, mine malfunctioned. And so I had it replaced 5 times.
Five times, wow.
After 5 times, it still wasn't working. And so I said, you know what, just rip it out. I don't want it anymore.
Okay.
So for me, it didn't work, but I know a lot of other people who it did work for. And it's, it's a good option for some types of pain. And for other types of pain, it may not be a good option.
Uh-huh. I see. Okay. So you've really gone through a lot. And I think you are a role model, because you got the pain at such a young age. You've gone through so many things, did all those treatments and so on, but you still seem like a very happy person and strong person. What helped you to keep your strength and to endure all of this?
Well, for me, I would say the most important thing was something that I actually shied away from and didn't want to do for a long time. My friends and my family had recommended that I go to a support group. And I said, why? So I can sit in a room with a bunch of people crying and complaining about their pain? But you know what? I went, and it was the most positive, wonderful group of people I've ever met in my life. And everybody knew what I had gone through without me having to explain it. Mm-hmm. And it was just wonderful to realize I wasn't alone. And there are people out there who deal with the same types of things. And, when I went to the group, it also made me realize that there wasn't, we were talking before about that magic pill or that magic cure.
Yeah.
And I was very much that type where I was looking for whatever it was that was going to fix me. And when I was talking to these people, I realized that, there doesn't have to be this one magic pill that makes you all better, or one magic surgery. If you focus on your diet, or if you focus on exercise or little things, and you put that together, that makes a big difference. So that was really important to me. And, what drives me now, what really motivates me, is to help other people and make sure that they don't have to go through the same things that I went through. And, that's what keeps me positive. I love to reach out to people who are newly diagnosed or who are struggling and tell them, hey, it's okay. It's going to get better. And you can still do this. You can still live your life and do all those things that you want to do.
Mm-hmm. When you talked earlier, you told me that you are teaching nurses and even doctors how to treat or how to handle CRPS patients. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's really exciting. Because a lot of med schools don't teach about chronic pain in general or CRPS at all, a lot of doctors just don't know what it is and they don't know how to treat you. And so here in the US, the RSD national group, RSDSA, has started a program where they're teaching nurses and doctors about the illness and about how to better treat people. And they were looking for volunteers to teach that course. And I said, hey, pick me. That's something I would love to do. And so I went through the process of getting licensed in order to teach this course. And it's really powerful for me to be able to sit down and talk with doctors and nurses and tell them, the things that would have been so helpful for me 20 years ago when I was first getting diagnosed, and how they can help people who are newly diagnosed and make that easier for people who are going through it now.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. What's the first thing that you tell them, or what are the 3 most important things that you tell them?
I would say that you can never understand what somebody feels, and so if somebody tells you that they're feeling pain, you have to take them at their word. You can't sit there in your head and go, well, they're smiling, so they must not really be in that much pain.
Yeah.
You have to trust them and believe them. If they say that they're feeling a 9 out of 10 pain, then they are. And you need to do everything in your power to help them and to make them feel better. And it can be something as simple as asking, hey, I have to take your blood pressure. Which arm do you prefer I put the cuff on? Because if you have pain in your left arm, putting the cuff on that left arm is going to be excruciating. So if the nurse asks you, which arm do you want that BP cuff on? And you're able to say to them, oh, here, put it on the right side. Or, I have to give you a needle. Which side do you want it on? It makes a big difference if you're able to communicate. And so I would say one of the most important things really is for them to communicate. And before they do anything, to tell you what they're going to do and ask you, where would you prefer? This is what I have to do. Where would you like me to do that?
That's great advice. That's great advice. I hope a couple of doctors will listen in and watch this video and take some notes. I think you are really doing great work. Yeah.
I think there are a lot of fabulous doctors out there that want to help people and want to do more. They just don't understand what it is to live with chronic pain. And so if you're able to communicate that to your doctors, that's really important. And I would say, when looking for a doctor, yes, knowledge is very important, but the most important thing is to find a doctor that listens to you and cares about you. Because if they care about you, they'll do the research. They'll look into the knowledge that they need. But if they don't care about you, that's not something that you can teach.
Yeah, absolutely. I made the experience that the best doctors are those who admit how little they know about chronic pain. And as you said, they will do the research. They Googled in front of me when I brought some printouts from the internet and asked them about a potential diagnosis. They were willing to check it. So those doctors I felt were really good. I felt like they were listening to me and taking me seriously. But then there were other doctors who I felt like they think to know everything. They just hand you some drugs and tell you come back 3 months later. It should get better. And I think that's one of the worst things you can say to a chronic pain patient, because you need to start changing your life right away.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I feel like in some ways it's almost not the doctor's fault, because my husband is a doctor, and in medical school they teach you, whether you know what it is or not, you always have to be certain that this is what it is. And you have to project that sense of knowing what you're talking about. And so a lot of doctors, they go with their training and they say, oh, well, if I don't know what it is, I have to pretend I know what it is. And for me, at least, I don't like that. I would rather you tell me, hey, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to work on it. And so a lot of times, instead of feeling hurt that the doctor's not listening and that the doctor doesn't believe you, talk to the doctor and say, look, I understand that this is how you were taught in medical school, and I understand why, but it's really important to me that we work together and figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think patient and doctor, they have to be a team, and patients also need to educate doctors. In the course of the development of our app, we've worked with many doctors and many pain experts, and they tell us that pain science knows very little about chronic pain, and that we still have to learn a lot. And I think that can only happen through a good dialogue between patient and doctors.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's so important. And I think a lot of patients maybe are afraid to talk to their doctors and are afraid to say, hey, listen, we need to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's so important that when you go in for your appointment, that you talk about what you're there to talk about, but also just talk about pain in general. Ask them what things they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you have a medical student in the class, in the appointment with you, you know, talk to them, ask them what they're learning in school, ask them what they don't understand, what they need to know more about.
Yeah.
And tell them, you know, if you have questions, come talk to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about my pain.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds very good. That sounds very good. The pain experts told us that here in Switzerland they have around 4 hours about chronic pain during their whole studies. So they're studying
Wow.
for 5 years, and 4 hours of those 5 years are about chronic pain. So that's very little. And I think we all need to fight for awareness to make chronic pain a common knowledge.
I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, when my husband was in medical school, I sat down with some of his professors and I volunteered to go in the classroom and teach them about chronic pain.
Wow.
And they allowed me to do that. And I thought that was great because, you know, it doesn't bother me if a student doctor is learning about pain medicine and they think about me, well, that's a good thing because then they realize that, you know, chronic pain doesn't all look the same. It's not just older people or younger people. It's all different shapes and sizes.
Exactly. Yeah. I think in a way we are lucky that we got hit by chronic pain in such a young age, because we still have energy to sort of change things, and we're both active in that way. So I think we are lucky that we are young, but yeah, of course we also have bad luck to have chronic pain at such a young age.
I like to look at it as everything happens for a reason. And while nobody would sit down and say, I think I'd like to have chronic pain, you know, if you turn the chronic pain around and you'd use it to help others, everybody has a special gift. Everybody has one. And so if we all use our special gift to help the chronic pain community, imagine what kind of good we could do.
Exactly.
So for me, that's what's really important. So, okay, you had some tough luck in life, but how do you turn that around and make it a good thing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there are so many people on this planet who are living a much worse life. I mean, that's what my psychologist told me. Well, I told him, look, why is it me? Why do I have chronic pain? I'm in such a misery. And he said, look, stop complaining. So many people have a much worse life than you have, and you still can do so many things. And that at first it made me a bit angry and frustrated because I felt like he doesn't understand me. But at the end, I had to realize that he's right. Yeah. And now I'm leading a happy life despite the pain.
And I think that's really, you know, it's a hard thing to learn is, you know, okay, so I'm going to have chronic pain. It's something I have to come to terms with. But how do I turn around and lead a happy life with it? And I think once you figure that out, the world is open to you. You can do so many amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's a matter sometimes of changing the way you look at things. Okay, chronic pain's not easy. It's not something that you want to have. But what can you do with that to make the world a better place? And I think if everybody looked at it that way, you know, they would be happier with themselves. And not only that, but they can change other people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it would be great to hear from other people who are watching this video. They could write down below in the comments about their experience, how they got their life back, or what they are still struggling with, and maybe in later videos we can answer a couple of questions or do more interviews. And the two of us will probably do more interviews as well. We'll see how this video goes, what the response is, and I think it would be great if the viewers provide feedback and tell us what they would like to hear about next.
I think that would be wonderful. I would love to hear, you know, what works for me and what works for you, Daniel,
Hmm.
may not be things that, that work for other people, or I might not have thought of something that works for somebody else. And so I would love to hear what works for people and what they do to help manage their pain, because I bet, we can all learn from it and we can all benefit from it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's a great point to call it a day. Or what would you say?
Well, Daniel, we talked about so much today and we don't want to overwhelm you guys. So we'll stop here, but we have so many exciting videos coming up that we want to do. We want to talk about different pain related topics, how to find the right doctor for you, tips and tricks to make living with your pain easier, traveling with chronic pain. So while we say goodbye until next time, leave comments and feedback. Let us know what you would like to hear more about. Let us know what you think. And yeah, keep viewing our videos. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
Yeah, thank you very much. And please press that subscribe button below. And thank you very much, Jennifer, for doing this video with me.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you. Have a great time. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.